Detroit Become Human is the latest opus from David Cage and QuanticDream, the same team of masterminds that produced 21st century classics like Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy and Heavy Rain. However, Detroit offers a more introspective and personal look into society, as the game delves into incredibly serious topics such as segregation, perception, and of course, as the title suggests, humanity. Although Detroit takes place in the year 2038, much of the story could be applied to the present day. Whether it be order, love, or even civil unrest, each character and each individual storyline does a great job of making the player feel like the events of the game could be happening right outside their doorstep. However, what separates Detroit from the pack is its unique gameplay and storytelling mechanics. Right off the bat, it's important to note that Detroit Become Human is less of a game and more of a story. The entire experience presents itself as an interactive movie more than anything, packed with choices and swerving turns that create a unique experience for each and every player. 5 of my friends have already played through Detroit at least once, and none of us have ended up with a remotely similar story. There are so many different options that the player can choose from, resulting in platitudes of directions in which this game can turn. The element of choice is by far the most important mechanic present in Detroit. Whether it be a gargantuan choice like saving or killing a character, or something as minute as doing the laundry, Detroit Become Human does everything in its power to give the player as many choices as possible. And it's not like these choices have dead ends. During my playthrough, almost everything I did had an effect on something later in the game. For example, decisions you make in Chapter 8 could have an impact on how the story of Chapter 31 plays out. This game is massive, and there's no way any player could ever replicate the story frame by accident. Everything affects everything, and no matter what you do, your story is bound to have different twists and turns during each of your playthroughs. However, like any other David Cage game, Detroit Become Human is not without its flaws. While no one is playing this game for the gameplay, what little mechanics the game does present should at least be presentable. Much of the game feels clunky on the controller, quick-time events are occasionally unresponsive, and simple tasks like walking from point A to point B could be considered a chore. Keep in mind that walking in this game is probably the most difficult aspect of the entire experience. Throughout the course of your 11 hours or so, walking around crime scenes, maneuvering busy streets, or even just getting up the stairs will be your biggest challenge. To say the controls are unresponsive would be a bit of an understatement, as every movement you make must be precise. However, no one's buying Detroit Become Human for the controls. If anything, the minor inconveniences presented by them are quickly forgotten once you realize how incredible this story really is. The interactive experience that Detroit brings to the table is breathtaking, and after playing through the game twice, I've only unlocked about a quarter of the story. After over 30 hours of gameplay, I haven't even scratched the surface on this monolith. David Cage has truly poured his heart and soul into this game, and it shows. Each moment in the story feels like a groundbreaking part of the overall arc, and every decision, no matter how small, that's presented before you, holds this weight that lingers in your mind. You never know what you're going to do to affect your story, as even the most mundane tasks could end up killing off a major character when all is said and done. The possibilities are endless when it comes to this story, and for me, that's what really makes Detroit the best game I've played in 2018, and one of the best things I've ever played, period. Personally, I'm a sucker for interactive movies. I can play them over and over again and just get lost in the story without ever having to worry about whether I screw up the gameplay. Games like Until Dawn and Life is Strange have held my interest for countless hours, giving me entertainment each time I play through them. I go back to those games from time to time just to experience something new, and possibly change my story as a whole, all because of this basic idea known as the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect is one of the most intriguing concepts in all of philosophy, as the belief that a minor event in one's life could cause major consequences in that same person's life later on. This concept is always present in the real world, but when it makes its way into video games, it's one of those things that turns a game from good to great. In Detroit, the butterfly effect is there, and it's turned up to 11.5. Literally, every single choice you make has an impact on the game, and the ending of your story is affected no matter what you do. That's what makes Detroit so amazing. The idea that you can't escape the butterfly effect, no matter how hard you try, and that even the smallest of ripples can make the strongest of waves. All things considered, I'm giving Detroit Become Human a 9.5 out of 10. This game is nearly perfect. It's a masterpiece, and when you consider the fact that every character has a purpose and every player takes a different approach, you can really appreciate Detroit for what it is. An interactive train that runs full speed ahead and doesn't stop until the player either experiences crushing defeat or boundless hope.